big thanks to Martin, Miroslava, David, and of course Peder as well. Do you want to go to home base over here? Do you want to stand up front?
We can try a new spot.
Okay. We're sort of making a bit of a gear shift into the world of not just retail but also big brand.
Mm-hmm.
But we got here Thursday? Is it? No. What today's Thursday?
Today's Thursday.
Tuesday we got here. We were talking a little bit about home practices and whether there's maybe a difference in California, just how you raise your household, etc. I'm wondering, what does best practice in education look like?
Well, best practice, I think, in the home is by leading by example. And my children see the products I use at home, to the car I drive, to having solar panels, to being a thought leader in my industry, to being open and fighting against current policies. And so that's how we do it at home. But they're also born into this. They know there's big issues facing their generation and the generations to come. And I think millennials and the generation underneath them are ready to tackle them. They're collaborative.
We should probably call, I set the challenge to Mark as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Langer is the CEO of Hugo Boss. A sort of...
I'll let you two take it.
Well, you want to take? Yeah, we can take it away. You're going to go prepare the buffet for lunch, because we're going to warn everyone right now. Amber, what is it? It's not a 30-minute break now. It's
20 minutes.
It's cut down to 20 minutes.
Good.
Willkommen, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Just to that question, what happens in and around Metzingen and Stuttgart when it comes to best practice in the Langer household?
Well, on the private side, I think it's managed very much by my kids. I have 3 beautiful young girls, and increasingly they are questioning us on our consumption profile. So packaging material, I've learned a lot about plastics. I think that's very high on their minds. Use of public transportation. So of course we have still nice corporate company cars, but when we go...
It's Stuttgart, after all.
But when we go to the city, we take the subway, so due to their request. But surprisingly, very little questions, maybe they're too small yet, on fashion. So something, I think events like this will raise awareness to that. I can tell you, at least as a Langer household, I take fair blame for that. It's not yet the full awareness. How's this t-shirt being produced, where it's coming from? These questions are not being raised yet. It's more on something they use more in their daily lives so far.
You should probably maybe just also, it's a little congratulations. You mentioned back it could be 15 years to the day that you've been at Boss, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
I think a round of applause for the gentleman.
Thank you.
The world of fashion, to be able to sustain something that long.
Yeah.
So just as a little bit of a rewind backwards, you came into this business in controlling. Mm-hmm. You graduated to CFO, now CEO. In this position, when you look at sustainability, what did you arrive with? You've been at the company for a long time, but maybe when did it really sort of hit gear? You felt this was something that came up in board meetings, etc. And maybe just let us know the position that you're in today.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly a reason why we have never been on the podium here in prior years. So it's not a topic that was ignored, but it was not as high on our agenda. And some of the keywords you used here today, change, commitment, were clearly also keywords at Hugo Boss for the last 12 months. So there were changes in management. And also, we as a management team were forced to rethink our strategy. So we still continue to be a sizable, successful company, but there were elements to our corporate strategy that we had to rethink. So there was a refocus on our brand portfolio. We are all challenged by completely different consumer behavior, digital behavior. So there were many reasons why we could say, okay, well, let's put sustainability on priority number 5 because we are busy fixing other things. Why that's not the case and why I'm also here today is that we put some of the hypothesis of what we want to do differently in front of consumers. So we did do a farmer focus interview. We are now a retailer in the core of our business.
And when did that process start, Mark, when you sort of started this dialogue at that level?
I think we developed core elements to the strategy already a bit more than a year ago. And of course, this is also in some way uncharted territory for us. So we put it into the focus group, something fast-moving consumer goods company has done.
And across markets? Because I find this fascinating. You're a proper global company.
Yeah.
And of course, the notion of what is, passes for sustainability with a family
Yeah.
in Baden-Württemberg is going to be very different
Sure.
from a family in the new territories in Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's true. And even from a Chinese perspective or Indian perspective, Europe, sorry to say, with 300 people is kind of like one part of a Chinese province. We see big differences between Italy and Spain and Nordic countries. But nevertheless, what we see is rather not where you live, but your age and other demographics, which makes it decisive how important this topic is for you. And I personally believe that it will be more important in terms of product innovation and for whether you build a strong link to a brand, whether we are a sustainable business model.
When you look at, it's just interesting, how much of this is authored internally? Because someone could maybe see that all of the consultants, from a variety of areas, and names that we know, small and otherwise, would be descending upon you. Has authorship been internal, or where does it come from?
It's internal. And once we discovered that, we discovered the second part of that was how strongly this resonates with our employees. So of course, we're a mid-sized company, but we are 14,000 people worldwide. We have a quite significant footprint also on the sourcing side. So we do have direct control about 20% of our production. And as we introduced sustainability days, we created more internal awareness. This was one of the events most attended by our people. So across all functions, people are eager to engage. So if you work on the creative side, you sense, okay, well, why aren't our collection reflecting more what we could do? Because I'm aware from my studies, from interaction with other brands, that we could do much more. Innovative materials, put it more into the consumers. Same from a retail side or marketing side. So one of the elements was that we try to connect internally these functions, listen to markets. So say hello to the colleagues from Copenhagen here as well. So we try to listen also what is needed in your markets. What are consumers telling you in our stores? Are they inquiring you, okay, where's this jacket actually made? Do you know the circumstances of production? What can you tell me about this product? This is increasingly happening. We try to incorporate that, and it has to be part of our daily life.
I mean, would that almost become part of, let's say, the range review? Because of course, we often sort of see the CEO, the creative director, there with, their design team, etc. So there's an interrogation about cut and silhouette. But is part of that interrogation now as well? Just tell us about, who are our suppliers on this? Tell us about the fabric as well.
It varies, I must say. First and foremost, they don't invite necessarily former finance director for such a decision. So
this rarely happens.
Better qualified people to say whether the color should be blue or red. But transparency, so where is this being produced, is even a very hot current topic, because we have not provided the level of transparency on our supply chain yet. We are committed to do that, and we will see, even with a few weeks' time, that we will be far more transparent to it. And of course, there are different voices. There are these people who say, well, isn't this a competitive advantage? Is it really relevant to the consumers? And you will never have 100% concurrence on this point. But at the end, my commitment is to move forward to that. And in a way, it's irreversible in this sense. So it's this call for commitment, that once you have committed to something, you have to evaluate the steps. We are a listed company, so I have obligation not only to some stakeholders, but also to our shareholders and other groups. But when we believe that's right, we have to maintain it. So whatever we do in terms of disclosures, in terms of commitments, in terms of using materials, this is the new minimum that we have at least have to fulfill. So we evaluate these steps carefully, but once we are committed, there's something about German engineering and trustworthiness. We keep our promises.
We've noticed, at least most German companies. There might be one automotive company not in your city, but we won't mention them. Tell me, when you mention sort of voices, would you say in this sort of embrace of a new program, is it the logistics colleagues, is it marketing and PR team, is it design? Would you say, have you been surprised, or have you seen a push from one division of the company more than others?
Well, you mentioned that at the beginning, I'm a veteran to the group. So if you want to create change, you just have to assemble the right sort of people. So take logistics, take operations. You have these who say, okay, the glass is half empty and we should be doing other things. And the other ones say, finally, I'm now connected and I build momentum. So for me, it's a bit on creating critical mass, but also manage the expectation of this group. So what we did across all these functions to collect these people who have competencies, but also standing organization. Could be the functional leader, but sometimes it's a young team leader from an organization that we know well, is also signal that he's now or she's selected to lead or represent this function in our sustainability committee. So it's not, we are hierarchical. I mean, especially from the top, you have to admit that. But in certain areas, we try now to loosen up things a bit. And if you are now in marketing and we feel, okay, you're committed and you're getting on my nerves a bit because I should do A, B, and C, then I say, well, you're on the board now. So now you're involved. Tell me, what's your plan? How are we going to source it? What is the benefit? I mean, we're not necessarily looking for a business case, but give me a good reason why we should allocate resources. And it has worked well. And many of the plans that we have, actually we did our first stakeholder dialogue with many NGOs. Some of them I think are also here today, where we invited them to Stuttgart. It was interesting to see that the most positive feedback I got, they said, hey guys, you're doing much more than we perceived from the outside. So I start talking about that. That also gave me the confidence. Maybe I'm not going to be shot down when I come to the stage here. That the point of departure isn't that bad for us.
You talked about how much you enjoyed the dinner that you were invited to last night.
Thanks, Christina.
One topic that came up around our table was a little bit, or at least it was one corner of the table, about where we're going to see leadership and leadership on a national level. You mentioned, of course, brand Deutschland. You're also a brand which is, okay, German at its core, but you are an international company. Do you feel that if we're really going to be talking directly to consumers, influencing press, government as well, does this feel just in your heart more like a European initiative? Do you feel that it's something that could be sort of, even your side of it, could it be led from New York or could it come from Asia?
I don't see major differences there. I mean, you just had a statement from the CEO from Patagonia earlier, and we have a lot of respect for what some of our US-based, oops, have I lost you? No. Companies are doing. So there's a different spin to the story, and other elements might be more relevant to that, for where Asian consumers are extremely aware of where things are being produced, what are the materials, the circular economy, cradle-to-cradle initiatives clearly resonate stronger in California than it may do today in Korea. So the people from cradle-to-cradle can probably judge this much better than I do. But we are a global brand. Whenever you're at the Hugo Boss store, it doesn't matter whether you're in Taipei, Vancouver, or Copenhagen. It's the same brand experience as we strive for. So that also defines, okay, what is the common denominator? That we want to be consistent. Consistency and credibility, I think, are key attributes that we try to accomplish.
Just backstage, you were talking about also, you're in this process of not just transformation from a sustainability point of view, but also corporately in general. You're off to Barcelona, talking to management teams, et cetera. I think there's a lot of people here who are probably just interested in the brand and where things are going in general.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'm sure you've been consulting your crystal ball, but if there's anything you could sort of foreshadow, because I'm sure there's lots of analysts and you have an opportunity on the stage to maybe talk a little bit about what we can expect from the brand.
Well, the objective, we are in a year of transition, not only in implementing some of our sustainability initiatives, but also to revamping our business model. So this year, we will have 2 fashion shows on menswear, where we were very much focused on womenswear in our external presentation. So we will be 2 times in New York with Boss Menswear. And for those of you who are at the Pitti Uomo in a few weeks' time, this will be the first time that we present the new Hugo offering, that's our more contemporary brand, to the public. So we believe there's enormous potential in our 2 core brands, but we have consolidated the sub-brands within Boss. There will be stronger focus on the menswear, but we will not walk away from our 300 million plus profitable womenswear business. So don't worry for the, I think it's a high female audience here today. Relaxed, you continue to be dressed perfectly well also with Boss going forward. The biggest challenge we certainly have is on the distribution side. Omnichannel services is a given, especially in the North American market. Same-day deliveries with all the repercussions it might have on your footprint to the economy. But building a strong relationship with the young consumer, not via typically traditional media, print, as you know. I mean, you know this industry much better than I do. But now be relevant on social media is one of the big challenges we are working on right now.
That's a big topic.
Yeah.
Just before we go, and I know you're leaving us this evening because you're leaving this beautiful weather that we're having
What a pity,
in Copenhagen. I've actually got a theory. I mean, of course, everyone talks about hygge, Danishness, the Danish notion of cozy, etc. But I believe that you can only have the Danish notion of cozy. Cozy only exists in countries with dreadful weather. You're heading to Catalonia. Hygge is not a concept because they've got sunshine. Finally, just on that, with your management team, I imagine obviously under the sunshine in Barcelona, of course, sustainability becomes also a topic anyway, though.
It is.
Looking at your next program for year ahead as well.
Yeah, we will give them a hint where we stand in terms of our innovation lab initiatives. So you have to put resources behind that. You have to free up capacities in the design teams. And we will ask for the markets, what do you think? Is this a capsule? Who should be a credible partner to that? What we do from a marketing perspective. Coming back to your point, okay, is this something that will work in every market? Maybe not, but then we need to find is this something that works well, at least in core markets, how we execute that. So there will be an important feedback. It's not only that we will be standing here and tell them, okay, that's a plan for the next 5 years, shut up and execute. No, we're living in a time where this leadership style clearly will not work. We also have to take them into the decision making. But once we aligned, it's a bit like what we discussed in sustainability. When you one thing, that's our commitment, we all have to deliver on it.
Great. Mark Lange, Dankeschön. Have a very good weekend. Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you.